What is up? Thanks so much for tuning in to episode 2 of the Walk and Talk podcast. This is Mateo with Bruno Pozo here, just doing our casual walk at CSUN. In this episode, I'll let Bruno share a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about today.
Hello, everyone, and thanks, Mateo, for hanging out again. Ooh, it's windy. Let's test it. So what I want to talk about today is actually our favorite films. We spent a little bit of this morning getting shots and traveling to certain film locations. And so it kind of just got us inspired, and I wanted to just talk about that. Let's just see where it goes. And actually, my nomination for my favorite film was Joker. But really quick, what was yours, Mateo? Did you have one yet?
I'm going to go with Back to the Future on this one, but I don't want to interrupt Bruno. So I guess, why is Joker your favorite movie?
So Joker, and I don't know if there's a previous Joker film, so I'll just say Joker 2019, just for clarity. So the one with Joaquin Phoenix. That is my favorite movie, and there's just so many reasons, man. But I would say one of the most impactful ones, we'll break it down, was definitely the theme of the film, right? It was a super villain movie, but we had the perspective from our protagonist being the supervillain. So you can already see that the setup was kind of meant to portray him in some sort of positive light. And I remember when the movie was coming out, a lot of people were worried. I don't know if you remember that, Mateo, like the controversy around like the release of Joker. Do you have anything that you wanted to say to that, or do you remember anything about that?
I mean, it makes sense because of with what happened in Aurora. But I mean, it kind of disrupted the message in a way, but I don't know. I could see both sides.
Yeah, and for those of us who aren't really sure what we're talking about, like a controversy with the film that ended up popping up last year around the release was people were claiming it would be dangerous and it would incite violence because it would be glorifying this supervillain narrative of like the awkward loner, loser, or like the outcast of society. And in America, that had been the cultural enemy, I guess you could say, or like the accepted enemy at the time was like these school shooters and like the people on the edges of society who are basically end up turning violent. And so there was a lot of incidents like where we can talk about, like he mentioned the theater shooting was definitely one, right? The church shooting is also by a disgruntled member of the community, so all these atrocities happened, and it was always around someone who felt like outcasted or pushed to the side. And the film Joker really does delve into that topic for quite some time. And so I just remember thinking about that controversy. It was just so strange. It really threw me off. And you're right, Mateo. It definitely distracts from the actual message of the film, which I think is unfortunate. But to pivot back to why I love this film so much and why the theme was so important to me, I really like when you can sympathize with someone you can stereotypically call a villain, right? Someone who is inciting violence, someone who is hurting other people, someone who is unfortunately just causing a lot of strife and upset in the community. And that makes sense. But what the film does so beautifully is actually make you sympathetic for him. And I thought to get a nation of people who have already dealt with this trauma of the violent, estranged community member, and to actually get them to sympathize, I thought was really, really tough and powerful thing to do. And the movie doesn't just make you feel sympathize and feel like everything he does is a good thing, right? I don't think anyone says that, right? Do you think that came off like it was glorifying violence at all, Mateo?
No, I think the main message was to raise awareness, but not everything is peachy under the hood. And I think they did a really good way of showing that there were opportunities to help him, or almost cries for help, but society didn't really care to, and that was the result of the negligence.
Yeah, and it seems like you definitely got the same message that I got, and it was more about a story about how we let this happen, how there are people in our community who, unfortunately, because of whatever their stature, their status, the drug addictions, the mental health was a big one they tackled, right? His laughing condition. That was a big part of why people didn't like him. Because unfortunately, and they did this on purpose, and it's just for the character of Joker, but he would specifically laugh when shit was going wrong. Like that was like his condition. Like he had uncontrollable laughter when things made him uncomfortable. And so like a lot of the times when he's laughing, it's like almost painful, and you would see it when he would laugh. That's why I love his performance. You can tell he didn't want to laugh. It was just and then he would start laughing. He would start choking on his spit. Like how terrible that people would take it the wrong way, or they might even recognize that he has his brain condition because of the card he'd pass around, and they don't care. And like that was the whole like very blatantly shown in the subway scene, right, with like the corporate like Wall Street kids, and then like him in the subway with the mental health and this girl that they're trying to hit on. Like there's so much in that movie to dissect, and like I love how every character plays an important role into the theme, at least, because it all creates this narrative and this city that's, you know, very cold and mean to him as Joker, right? And that's just one element. Was there anything that you liked about the movie, Mateo, or like anything else besides the theme maybe you want to share about?
I think it just shows the beauty of stories. And I'm actually a huge fan of like darker comedies or darker shows, just because, you know, most of this stuff we see on TV is like, oh, like the winners always win, or the good always wins, and nothing bad happens. And like, that's nice too, you know, you need to see that every once in a while. But at the end of the day, the world is not that. And, you know, I don't know what it is, but I'm personally drawn to sort of that dysfunction in a way.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on that, like, more, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but darker side of media enjoyment. I've had my share of like happy-go-lucky films, and don't get me wrong, I'll watch comedies all day long. In fact, funny fact, I cried the first time I watched that movie when he finds out that he was probably adopted, or whenever. What was it? It was his. He's not even his mother's son, right? When he finds out the papers or whatever. That whole scene, oh man. And then just seeing him just cry, and then realize he's probably not the estranged son of, what was it, the Wayne's father. I forget who Bruce Wayne's father's name is, but yeah, like he even had that whole embarrassing experience, and it was all for nothing because his mother lied. And it was, yeah, that whole scene was just brutal, man. Like, fuck. And it's hard to really make me cry, but I don't know if you ever had any like experience like that, Mateo. Did you have a movie that you cried in?
Honestly, probably like Marley and Me, just like, you know, something like kind of like a love story, but like dogs, and I don't know. That's the kind of movies that I guess would shed a tear in.
Yeah, I can see that. And definitely with the animal dying shit like that. Like that was what in a Never-Ending Story with Artist, the horse or whatever, when he gets stuck in the quicksand or quick water. I forget. I vaguely remember that movie. But yeah, like it's always when an animal dies, it really hurts too. Definitely a very touching moment in film. So enough about Joker for now. Mateo, what was your favorite film and why?
So I'm going to take it to a little bit of a sci-fi level here, but I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. If anyone knows or seen any of my content, you probably already know that. But for some reason, I'm really drawn to this idea of time travel. And I think that movie does a really good job of it's just a great story and just like a great framework for a story. Mm-hmm. And how they are able to encompass every single thing that happened in the first movie, and it all is tied into all of the other movies. And so it's just a classic grade A film in my eyes. Maybe I'm biased, but it's just a great film.
Wait, so you enjoy the full series? I thought it was just a specific movie, but the whole package is a trilogy, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, but the first one is definitely a classic, though.
And it's not like you're trying to say like your favorite part about it was the actual like storytelling of it, like the actual narrative of events and how they were able to keep everything together, right? Like between the movies. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I think overall it's just like, who wouldn't want to like time travel and experience that? But at the same time, like, you really grow to like Marty, and he's a good guy. And I think it just really for the first time, it depicted time travel and something that was conventional. It wasn't like you jump through a portal, or it was like too sci-fi in a way. It's just like, okay, if you could literally have the power to just move forward or backwards in time, like, would it really stay the same? Like, would it look kind of the same but different? Like, so it almost just makes you think, okay, A, where would you go if you had a time machine? And B, like, if this was possible, would like a Tesla be able to do that next? Or like, is this even possible?
So then, if you're such a big fan of time travel, what do you feel about, like, let's say, the Terminator series, or even, like, did you ever watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, or those movies?
I have seen the Terminator films. I think they're good. I think it's just a little too futuristic for me. Like, maybe it's just like, it's a long ways until like robots. Well, I don't know. It's just like a lot more death and action oriented, as opposed to more of just like the journey of time travel and like how it fucks with your head and like the shit that could happen. You know, I think I don't know. That's a good point though, because like that. Those are there's like Hot Tub Time Machine too, right? Like that's a classic too. I don't know. I think it
sounds like to me you seem to enjoy the stories that when they talk about time travel, it's like they try to do something, whimsical or kind of lighthearted, or like to at least where the consequences of the time travel are addressed in like a little more lighthearted ways or more interesting ways than just like in Terminator. It's just about a future war where apparently we're somehow sending people back in time to kill or protect the leaders that are gonna like stop that war. So it's such a completely backward ass crazy shit view of time travel. Yeah, the idea of time travel in that one is so far gone about like just this war.
pretty deep, I would say, like deep into the future, right?
Yeah. Apparently in the narrative, I think it's like a 200 year or within the next 200 years or something. But it is different. That's all. It's just funny. I just wanted to know what you thought, because when it comes to time travel films, the rules are never the same in any two time travel movies. And so I was just curious, like, what your thoughts were on that, because I just always thought those movies specifically were hilarious, because the way they deal with time travel, it just blows my mind. It makes no sense, especially in like Terminator and shit, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like, but you're right. I feel like in Back to the Future, they kind of addressed it in a more serious or like realistic. Maybe not even realistic. Honestly, it's hard to even say. With all this time travel shit, that all seems like nonsense to me.
I think there's a scene in the second film where like Doc suddenly gets disappeared and thrown into the future, and Marty's alone, and it's pouring rain, and out of nowhere you see a car drive up and say, "Are you Mr. McFly?" And he said, "Yes." He's like, "We have a letter here for you that's been closed for 100 years now, saying to give it to this person at this specific time and date." And he's like, "Are you him?" He's like, "Yeah." And so it's like, okay, like if time travel was possible and you could go back like a year from now and write a letter to yourself, like would that be possible? I guess speaking in terms of the space-time continuum, it would work out, right? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, and I know exactly what you mean. This is what I mean by like every time travel movie has its own set of rules. It's so funny because if you try to like reverse engineer the logic, 95% of the time it's just nowhere. It's just whatever the writer felt like makes sense at the time, which is why it's funny though. So sometimes you can see how people think based on how they write their time travel logic, and it's just funny. The logic in Back to the Future was pretty like straightforward like that. Like it was very simple. Like he's like, oh well, I guess since I traveled back here and I need to give a message. What was that? Oh, it must have been November 3rd at 12 p.m. I'll make sure to get a message delivered right then so that he wastes no time. It's just funny like that. And a lot of shows do that. Like even Rick and Morty is a really good one. They go into like they're very simplistic write-offs and like ways of explaining things that just make me laugh. And it's just, but it all adds up. It just depends how you want to deal with the time travel. But that's good. I mean, yeah, time travel movies are something else, man. They're just like they should be a genre of their own.
Absolutely. I think we'd love to hear any of our viewers out there what your favorite movie is. Hopefully we have an email coming up here soon that you can just message us any topics that you'd like us to talk about, or just we'd love to hear more about you and what you love about the show. But any closing thoughts here, Bruno, as we wrap up our second episode?
Closing thoughts? No, I mean, we both were able to elaborate on our films adequately, I believe. I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, personally, to be quite sincere with you, I can talk about Joker for like another 30, 40 minutes, but I think we can just call it now. It was a good fun time, just walking around CSUN and talking about good old movies and having a good old jolly time. I'm glad I'm here.
Get out there, do some walking, do some talking, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.